everybody, it's Christina with Bubblegum Paper, and I'm here with another fun birthday card. Today it's a big bovine birthday wish for one of my uncles, Dajuju. I'm featuring a bunch of products from Mama Elephant. Here's a quick close-up of what the card looks like, and let's get started. I'm using the Lunar Animals again because my uncle was born in the year of the cow. I'm also using the sentiment from Up and Away, the Reindeer Game's Presents, and this tiny little bunny rabbit from Ella and Friends. For my dies, I'm going to be using the Spellbinders A2 Matting Basics, the Sizzix Circle Framelits, this really fun So Fancy outside cross-stitch border from Mama Elephant, and the Picket fence from Mama Elephant. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp the presents, the hat, the little cow, and the little bunny, and I'm going to use my Copic markers to color this in. I'm going to set this to some music and speed it up just a bit, and I will be back soon. There's quite a bit of die cutting in this card, so I'm starting with the coordinating dies of the cow and the bunny rabbit, the presents, and the hat. And I'm just running that through a couple times to get everything cut out. And these cut perfectly, so I don't have to fussy cut a thing. Now for the card fronts, I'm using the So Fancy outer border. It's like a cross-stitch border, and I'm going to cut two pieces from some white cardstock. The second piece I cut isn't perfect, but it's okay because the top part will be covered by the front panel anyways. Now for the front circle window, I want to make sure I leave enough room for the sentiment, so I'm just placing the little stamp in the upper left corner, and then I'm taping down the circles exactly where they need to be. I'm also taking some extra white cardstock and cutting the Picket fronts from this, and I actually don't have a grassy border die that's the exact curve of the Picket fence, so to solve for that, I'm using a green piece of cardstock, and I'm cutting the Picket fence out of that, and I'm going to toss out the Picket fence part of the die cut, but I'm going to keep the hill, and I'll be able to place the white right on top of that. Now I'm going to temporarily assemble the scene just so I know how high the grass needs to be so that there's enough breathing room for the cow and the rabbit to fit inside that circle window. So I'm just placing the cow and the picket fence down and the hat. I just want to make sure there's enough breathing room up top, and then I'm using a pencil to mark the bottom edge of the card. Then I'll go in and use a Spellbinders die to trim off the bottom corner exactly where I want it to be. And now it fits. So for this card, I actually want to keep that cross-stitch border. I want to keep that perfectly white. So I'm using the grass die cut as a guide, and I'm placing washi tape. There's my hair. I say that all the time, don't I? Anyways, I use some washi tape to cover up the cross stitch. That way, while I'm doing this ink blending, the border will stay white. This is kind of like painting a wall in your house where you take the painter's tape and you cover the ceiling and the edges that you don't want paint on. I'm doing that same thing with this piece of cardstock. I'm using Tumble Glass Distress ink and just gently creating a sky. I'm going over a couple times. Just super, super light. I'm not pushing down very hard at all, so it takes a couple of coats, but I'm getting a clean blue sky background. And then as I tear the washi tape off, you can see the crisp edge. And now when I place the grass there, it almost looks like it was done on purpose. Well, it was done on purpose. It almost looks like the paper came that way. Now I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm just inking up the sentiment and stamping it in the upper left corner. I'm going to use the Reindeer Liquid Platinum Embossing Powder just to sprinkle that on top of the stamp. And I'll heat that with my Martha Stewart heat gun. So this heat tool is super hot. You don't want to burn yourself with it, but it melts the embossing powder so it becomes like this raised super shiny, has this raised super shiny effect on it. And I love doing this. So you'll see it in a lot of my cards, but I love how it just shines. So now I'm going to assemble the front of the card. I'm using the tape runner to just kind of tape the grassy hill in place. And then I'm placing all the different elements in. What I'm going to do is make sure I know where everything needs to be placed. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue them down from back to front. So the grass is down. Now I'm going to go put some tape runner adhesive on the back of the cow. And then I place that behind the fence. So for the fence, I'm using a liquid adhesive, and I'm just applying it to each of the pieces of the fence. And I'm holding that down pretty tightly. Then for the rabbit and the presents, I'm kind of creating the scene where the rabbit is stepping on one present and lifting it up over the fence to give it to the cow. So I'm using some foam adhesive, and then I'm using glue dots. Like the liquid adhesive wasn't strong enough, so I went and grabbed some glue dots, and I'm using that to tie the bow, to put the bow on top of the gift. And then the two gifts will be placed on some foam adhesive. When I cut the circle window, I cut 2 layers of it. So the inside layer is actually going to be glued straight down onto the card back. And then the top layer, the Sending Smiles piece, will be lifted up with some foam adhesive. This creates a little bit more dimension on the front of my card and just adds a little more interest. I felt like I was reminded of some of those picture frames that you see like at Michael's and stuff. So I wanted to make a little bit of a mat. So I'm ripping off all that foam adhesive, and I'm just going to glue the front panel to the card itself. And then I'll take my last present, place that down under the rabbit, and then I'm using some Wink of Stella pen to add glitter everywhere because I love glitter. Now I'm just going to make my standard A2 folding card base. I'm just folding that down, and I'm using my tape runner, applying a liberal amount of tape, glue, and then I glue the front panel. So there's the finished card. So here's a close-up of the finished card. You can see all the different layering elements that I incorporated. And thank you all so much for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you watching all these videos. Here are 2 more videos that I made recently featuring Mama Elephant stamps. You can also follow me on social media at Bubblegum Paper or visit my blog at bubblegumpaper.com for more detailed instructions. Thank you again, and catch you next time. Bye!